Welcome back. One of the things that has discouraged me occasionally, but I'll get over it, is when I play a game that during the game I thought we were playing a tight, well-balanced positional contest, and thought at the end, the other person just outplayed me. And then I run the evaluation and it says you had, 15 blunders or whatever. Well, this was one of those games, and I just want to go through it and see if I can figure out why certain moves were blunders. Maybe it'll be instructive to somebody, hopefully me. Okay, well, we opened with trying to play the London system, and I'm just going to go through these first quite a few moves fairly quickly because none of these were blunders or mistakes on the part of either one of me or my opponent. That was actually my best move, believe it or not. Now, white has a slight advantage here, but I play an accuracy and give away most of my advantage. But again, these are all either slight inaccuracies or best moves in almost all of these cases. Here we are, move 19. Nobody's made a mistake yet. That's actually pretty impressive. However, due to some of my inaccuracies, and I'll show the engine right here, I have given away my advantage, and my opponent actually has a slight advantage at this point. We have both used I've used nearly half my time. You can see the opponent has used more than 3 minutes of a 10-minute rapid game. And in here, their best move, it says, is to play queen to c7. I guess hoping to pin this knight, but I don't know. The knight's protected. I'm not sure why that would be their best move. But this turns out to be their first mistake, the first mistake for either one of us in the entire game. And the reason it's a mistake is because it allows my knight in here, apparently, which is what I played. So, but we're even on material, dead even on material, and we both have some control over the center. They're occupying 2 center squares. I'm occupying 2 center squares. My position on the center is slightly better. I'm hitting lots of things, lots of squares from here. And because they didn't play queen to c7 a move ago, they can't now. So, but not bad. They can challenge my queen, which is what they do. It's not one of their best moves, though, and it gives me back a slight advantage. But now we play several more moves with no mistakes or blunders. There are going to be some inaccuracies in this portion here. But we're playing smartly, positionally, and I thought both of us were doing fairly well. Again, my opponent has a slight advantage, but nothing significant enough to really worry about. My best move, because they were threatening mate. So, in fact, if you back up, that's my only move that doesn't pretty much completely lose the game. I could have played f4. I could have moved this rook out of the way to give my king an escape square. But yeah, basically they're threatening mate here, and that was my best move. But now they're coming. And I knew not to be too worried about this situation over here, but I wasn't exactly sure what to do about it. Now, what I should have done was bring my bishop back here to challenge this, is what it says. My second best move is h4, and and that says h3 is what I played. My second best move to kick the knight back out. So the knight went back out. But then I did that. That's my first mistake of the game. Okay, now, my reasoning for this is that they're going to move this pawn forward. I was almost certain of that. And I thought if they attack the g-pawn at that point, I only have one defender on it, and their queen is also coming down. So I thought, why not put another defender on that g-pawn? But I guess I wasn't thinking that once they do play this, that I could push my g-pawn forward, and then their h-pawn would be locked. But I do not understand here why it says my best move is knight to e1. I don't understand that. Knight to e1. What would that do? I guess it allows me to get it here in front of my king, which would block off those squares. So if I played knight to e1, they would play h4. And it says then I would attack over here. I don't know that I would have seen knight to e1 because it disconnects my rooks, which is kind of like undeveloping a piece. Rook a to b1. That's my second best move. And that's my third best move. I mean, I can see this. Trade off an extra piece and that... sorry. They would take back. But then that just gives them complete control over this file. Whereas right now, I guess they kind of have control over that file anyway. But I don't know why I'd want to give up this bishop. I think this bishop's in a good spot right now. I don't know. Yeah, I don't understand this. I don't understand why that's a blunder either. It's not a blunder, it's a mistake, according to the engine. Give my opponent another 1 point whatever of advantage. But they did play their second best move in this position, which was to line their queen up here. And now it says I should move my king over. But I have to be honest, though, I really wasn't worried right here, just because, again, if they move this forward, attacking this pawn, I have an extra defender on it. That's the whole reason for putting my king there in the first place. But I didn't do that. I decided to contest this c-file by putting a rook on it. And the idea here, obviously, was that when I do move this knight, and I had this weird plan, which the computer doesn't like at all, which was to move this knight, put my queen here. My queen would help guard my f-pawn. Then my knight could go to where the queen is now and eventually get to there, which would block off these two files. I know it's a weird plan, but again, I looked at this for so many seconds and I did not see how much danger I was in this position over here. But they played their best move, and now I'm supposed to play g4. I see why that's good in hindsight, because it makes their f-pawn, their h-pawn ineffectual, because it's not hitting anything anymore if I move this pawn. And that's guarded from behind, and their queen's going to have a hard time rerouting to get in there, and that's still guarded by my f-pawn, so I can see, okay, that makes sense to me. I guess I was worried that they were just going to sacrifice their knight for it, and then when I took, they would take, and they would have check, and then my king's trapped in this corner and can't get out, right? If I do there, they sacrifice their knight. How bad would that be if they did that, and I took, and they took? It's as white actually has an advantage. White actually has an advantage here. Their best move is to take it all the way back. Well, I didn't see that. It looked like it would be bad for me, that my king would be trapped in the corner with this queen. And they could probably start bringing a rook around somehow. I don't know. But I went ahead. Remember the crazy plan I told you about rerouting the knight with the queen and putting the knight here and over there? I just decided to do that. Yeah, putting the knight in the corner is not a good idea. I know that. But I knew I didn't think it would stay in the corner. Again, I thought I would either put my queen here to guard this pawn, or maybe if I didn't want to line my queen up with that, I could put my queen here to line up with this, and then get my knight from there to there. Okay, well, that was a mistake. Now, what they're supposed to do is take this pawn. Which, again, I don't know why that would be so great, because I'm going to take back with my pawn. That's going to open my rook file. That's what they should have done, but they didn't. They decided to put an extra piece on it, which to me, that looked like their best move. But Stockfish says that's a blunder. It takes away almost all of their advantage. And again, here I thought I was almost done for. They've pointed too many pieces here. And again, I'm supposed to play g4. Now, this one I do understand now. Because now, if I play g4, those pieces aren't pointing at anything anymore. They're pointing at an empty hole that they can't go to. The pawn can't go there. The knight could go there, but I don't think it would want to. So yeah, okay. So I understand why g4 is my top suggested move in this position. My second best move is to take this with my rook. What? Wouldn't they just take it back? And if I took, whoops. I mean, I guess it draws their queen away from my whole kingside area, but we would just have a massive trade there. I just thought, now I'm going to be perfectly honest, I didn't see that the queen was also hitting it. I thought only the rook was hitting it. So I took here, which is not any of these moves. I took with the bishop, thinking they wouldn't take back because my rook's guarding, right? And I thought, then I could move my bishop, and my rook's protected, and these two rooks would be facing off. But then as soon as I moved it, I said, oh no, their queen's guarding that spot too. So they took, and I took, and they took. But that gave me a little breathing room because their queen's not over here anymore. Okay, Stockfish says I should still play g4. Well, you'll be proud of me because I played g4. This is my thinking. The queen's not here anymore. The queen is not pointing down through here at all. It's way over there. It got distracted by the little skirmish off to the queen side. And it's like, oh, I'm the queen. I should be on the queen side. And it went over there, but now it's not attacking me anymore. And I thought, what if I kick this knight out? You know, where's it going to go? Well, earlier when the computer said I should play g4 and I didn't, it had said the knight was going to go back here. But now it says the knight should go this way. And I don't know why. But they went there to h6. And that's a mistake. I have no idea why. That makes sense. Why is that a mistake? Because if it went over there, that blocks the queen from getting back. Doesn't the queen want to get back? I'm with my opponent on this one. I think that just looks like a better move than going to d6. Because, again, d6 blocks the queen's path. This aims at this. I guess one downside of that is that I could continue challenging it with my pawn. But if I did that, they're just going to come back. And then my pawn's way over there for nothing. And it says my best move now is to offer a queen trade. Queen to b5 or queen to c2. Where the knight protects it. I should encourage a queen trade here in one of those two spots if I want to maintain equality. And failing that, I should put the knight back where it just was. Well, I had already told you my plan. I wanted my knight to go here and then go there. But that's when the bishop was on b5. But now that the bishop's not on b5, I thought maybe my knight should go to b5. I don't know. I don't know which square would have been a better one for the knight. Maybe neither of them because, again, Stockfish is saying I should go here possibly or offer the queen trade. But I thought now that the bishop's gone, maybe I can reroute my knight this way and get it to b5. I know, a little bit far-fetched, but it continues to blockade this pawn, and from there it attacks several squares, protects, I don't know. I didn't see much I could do over here. I didn't really want to move the rook away from protecting this f-pawn, so I've got two pieces I can move, basically. And, well, I moved... My move was a blunder. I went here. Again, I wanted to either put the knight here and then there, or here, here, and then there. And for that, I needed the queen to be in a fairly safe spot. Also, this queen was pointing at this pawn, and I wanted my queen to continue guarding that pawn. I thought this was good because from here, this queen also guards this pawn. And it allows my knight maneuver. But that's a blunder, and I don't know why. It's a blunder, according to Stockfish, if they play f5 now. I don't know what's so great about f5, and my opponent didn't either. It says I would have taken it, but I don't know that I would have. I mean, I might have. I don't know. But, I mean, that spot's guarded by the knight. If I take, the knight takes, and they're back in. And if I don't take and say go forward, well, the knight can drop back here because the f-pawn's moved. Or Well, no, it wouldn't go there. It can't go here because the f-pawn's there now, but it could go back where the f-pawn used to be because the f-pawn's up here. And again, if I take, I just assumed they would take back. But now Stockfish says that they wouldn't. They would go here and I would take, and then they would play rook here, which would be a great move. That rook then could pick up the pawn because the pawn can't change files. My opponent didn't see that. My opponent played here. And that was a blunder, but I don't know why. It was a blunder because they didn't do this, but what's bad about this? I don't know. Well, I went ahead with my plan. I moved my knight. That's a blunder. That's a blunder. Not sure why. And again, I don't know if you remember earlier, it wanted me to play knight to e1. It wants me to do that again. I'm not sure why. Does it want to protect a pawn push? Well, I went ahead with my plan. It was a blunder. But again, I'm trying to get up here now. And right now the rook is there, so that seems like it would be a good square. Well, it says now their best move is to take this pawn. Which is, remember, that's what I was worried about earlier, but Stockfish said no. But now Stockfish says yes, and they did it. I was worried about that because if I take back, they'll take back. And earlier their queen was here, but it doesn't make any difference. So I don't know why it's so good now, but it wasn't good earlier. So I took it, and they took back. Forced mate in 5. I obviously only have 2 choices here. I thought if I went back, they would come in, and I would have to go over, and then they would bring that rook, and it would be mate. So I went here, which turns out to be the better of the choices, and their best move is to bring the rook, which they did, and now they have forced mate in 4. I had no idea what to do. How do I stop it? How do I stop it? So I looked around. Wait, my queen guards that square if this dumb pawn wasn't in the way. Maybe that's why earlier it wanted me to play knight e1 so I could move that pawn and then my queen guards this. Well, I found it and I moved it forward. That was my best move, but it's still mate in 4. Because my pawn used to guard g3, but it doesn't anymore. So they come forward. But they didn't see that. They already knew from before that they couldn't go to g3, and so it didn't enter their mind here. All they see now is that, oh no, now he's guarding g2. So they didn't see this. But they took the pawn, which is a blunder, because they didn't see that. But now they don't have a forced mating sequence anymore. And, well, they don't unless I can give them forced mating sequence back. But I found the best move here. And I thought I was playing very well, and apparently I was. The last 2 times I've made the best move. But again, they're supposed to play here, and they did. And I didn't see any way out other than to take it, right? So I took. It turned out to be my best move. They took back. This gets very dicey. But I thought if I drop back, they could check me here. Or here, I would have to hide in front of the pawn. Then they would be able to bring the rook down here, and I probably would be mate. I don't know. Maybe not. But I went to the best spot. And here, I don't know why. They're supposed to play rook to f6. I guess to... Oh, because that pawn's not guarded right now. Okay. Well... Their second best move is to guard that pawn by moving it forward, which they did, leaving me basically only one choice, which I'd made. But now, look at Stockfish. Stockfish says we're drawn now. We're equal on material. I have a whole extra piece for their extra pawns. How about that? But, I mean, this knight's not doing anything over there. But yeah, Stockfish says we're drawn now. if they'll play f5 or rook to g4. I don't know what that would do. But they didn't. They played that. I've got the advantage back. If I play this, well, that was my plan the whole time. Of course, they're not checking me anymore. I don't know what else they can do over here, so I did that. Best move. Stockfish didn't like my plan earlier, but now Stockfish has said, well, you might as well put it there. And I actually have a very slight advantage. And they gave me a bigger advantage if I'll play knight to c3, which I did, because I was going after this pawn. Look at that. The engine says they should just let me have the pawn. Put the rook here on e6. Or play f5. And I have an advantage either way because I have a piece. They have extra pawns, but those pawns really can't do anything, right? These pawns can't do anything. These pawns can't do anything. I didn't know this at the time. I mean, I thought I might be able to run them down, but then I looked at the clock. I've only got 37 seconds left, and there's no increment. They moved to protect the pawn, which turns out to be a mistake. And I'm supposed to play here. Okay, I do understand this blunder. Oh, man. That would have allowed me to get this pawn. Which would have allowed me to get this pawn. Well, I didn't see that. I have 37 seconds left, so I went back over there to check, and then I got this bright idea. I could repeat moves. They can't come in. They can't come after me. My pawns guard these two holes. So that, I mean, their pawns are doing the same thing in case my king went that way. But yeah, they can't follow me. So what are they going to do? They did that, which turns out to be a blunder. And again, I'm supposed to go here to attack that pawn, but I thought I can repeat moves. Their king can't come through here. What's their king doing over here? It's not accomplishing anything. Well, then they realized, oh, you know what? Their king could probably come over here and hit this pawn. They finally realized this pawn's unguarded, but they can't go there because my knight's guarding it. So they went there, which turns out to be a blunder. Now, I played the best move, but that's not for the reason Stockfish wants. I was just going to repeat as fast as I could and hopefully not lose on time. I didn't realize I had an advantage here. Well, they decided to do their plan, which is to come forward and attack this unguarded pawn. And I repeated moves here, which turned out to be a blunder and didn't save me that much time. I'm down to 20 seconds now. And now they are coming after this pawn, and there's not anything I can do about it. Now Stockfish wants me to go here again, but I didn't. I went that way. Why did I go that way? I don't know. I didn't have a lot of time to think about it. Yeah, so they went there coming after my other pawn. They have a huge advantage now. And rook to a1. a1, b1, or putting my knight back here. Well, I didn't do any of those things. I went there thinking maybe I could come in here, but yeah, they took my pawn. And I was playing fast. Okay, I have 10 seconds left. Mistake. They shouldn't have taken my other pawn, but they still have a huge advantage. I put them in check. They moved out of check. I took this pawn. I've got 6 seconds left. Now watch here. I was moving so fast. I just moved into the path of that rook, and they didn't see it because they were starting to move fast too. They're down to 30 seconds, so they just moved out of check. Oh, and I should have... Oh, I had a fork. Oh, my goodness. I had the fork, but I didn't see it. Oh, but look. It's over now. That was a mistake. Stockfish is just about to find a mating sequence. You know, now they can just take this, right? They didn't. I know why that's a blunder. They could have just taken it. Look what it said. Rook captures. Why was that so hard? Were they worried I was going to get this pawn? I wasn't going to take that pawn because then they would take this. That's why the computer's wanting me to move my rook out here someplace. Because that's why they didn't take, I'm sure, is because they were afraid I would take this pawn. But I wouldn't take this pawn because my king is the only defender of my rook. But anyway, they did that, which gave away most of their advantage. And now I'm supposed to play here with this fork. But I did not. And now all they have to do is take it. Because again, my king is the only defender of the rook. If I take the knight, they'll get my rook, and this pawn's going to promote. That's why Stockfish has found a mate in 13. But they just moved out a check again. Guess they thought this rook could not take this knight. And I ran out of time here. But you saw that. I had 10 blunders and 4 mistakes in this game. My opponent had 12 blunders and 5 mistakes. And yeah, that graph goes up and down quite a bit. Looks like the teeth on a saw at points. But yeah, games like this really get under my skin for some reason, because I thought we played smartly up until when I knew I was low on time and I was just moving as fast as I could, like playing like it was blitz or something. But then I find out that even back then when I did have time, half those moves were blunders. And that's incredibly disappointing. But I'm trying to work my way through it. So anyway, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.